and we are live on YouTube as well as live in studio. This is a emergency slash urgent podcast. I wasn't planning on doing this. I had a whole different newsletter planned for today for social change communicators, but there is shit. Shit is happening on the ground. And I want to talk about LA. I want to talk about the Alex Padilla incident last night, the ICE raids, and the MAGA narrative. I want to talk about storytelling and marketing and communications and big tech and why a lot of this is happening, because we are in a moment where we are seeing a lot of playbooks replaying themselves. We are seeing a lot of things that we can anticipate, but a lot of people are really overwhelmed right now, rightfully so. The playbook is to keep us overwhelmed. The playbook is to throw so much of this at us that we feel completely overwhelmed and that we just stop and don't and let all of this happen. If you'll remember, I can't remember if it was before or after the election, but one of the goons, one of the MAGA goons said, this is a coup and it will be bloodless if the left allows it. That was real. He actually meant that. And so that is what we're going to talk about, is the narrative and how we can see and look at the narrative and anticipate the narrative and then reframe it and transform for our narrative. Because we need to be telling our stories, we need to be shifting the narrative, and we need to know what traps we are falling into. So I hope y'all are joining me. I can't really see that many. I can't see much in the studio, so hopefully y'all are getting in here and watching. So today, I just want to give a quick, as people are joining and trickling in, I want to give like a quick idea of what to expect. Just give me a second. All right. I just popped off for a second, but should be back on now. Okay. Sorry for that brief disruption. So today, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about the narrative, and we're going to be talking about how we avoid the MAGA narrative trap. So just to give you a sense of what we're going to talk about today, we are going to talk about the LA riots. That's not really what I want to call them. We're going to talk about the takeover of LA, the Alex Padilla incident, and how we can message that. And then I also want to give some advice around how to protest this weekend, for folks who are worried about their security, both from a physical security perspective as well as cybersecurity and, our mental health. We really need to take care of our whole selves in this moment, because again, the idea is to overwhelm. It is to get us to feel very disruptive. And so how are we going to push back on that? It is to make sure that we are whole and that we are taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other. So to jump in, I want to talk about Alex Padilla. And if you have not seen that, Alex Padilla was at a press conference with Kristi Noem yesterday, and he was forcibly detained when he was asking a question about what Kristi Noem was saying, which again, what was Kristi Noem saying? She was talking about taking over California. She said, we are not going anywhere. We are staying here. And we are going to, using the rhetoric of the radical left, all of this. So again, this is the playbook that they were using in 2020. And so we need to be really aware of that. And so we need to disrupt that narrative. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because I'm trying to get links to people and different people are joining in the wrong place. And so try to speak to you while also being a producer, and that is not something that is easy to do. And so if you would like to support the Roots of Change Agency so that we could have a producer and support, please do so. That would be great. I would really appreciate that. All right, okay. So Alex Padilla, he was asking a question about what Kristi Noem was saying, which was fascist. They are talking about taking control of California. And I was thinking about a lot of the messaging that was happening around the election, because I was driving through Nevada, Arizona, all of these different purple states. And what we saw was a lot of California bashing. Like, you don't want your prices to be like California. You don't want to be, you don't want to be, you don't want to be like California. And that worked. It does work, because there's been this ongoing narrative of bashing the coastal elites. And so when you have that ongoing repetition, now we are in a place where that repetition is paying off, because a lot of people are conditioned to think, well, California is very leftist, right? And so they're trying to play into that narrative. And they're also playing into a narrative of what I'm going to call WWE SmackDown as policy. So I recorded a video that's live on YouTube a week ago about the, I can't even remember where it was, but they were arrested and detained in front of an ICE detention center, Congress members. And when you hear the language of the way that they're talking about Democratic elected officials doing their duty and trying to get transparency for the public, they are using the language of WWE SmackDown. They're like, they body slammed the ICE agents, and like Alex Padilla was, being disruptive, and all of this language. Pay attention to how they're using their language and who they're using their language for. Alex Padilla is a Latino senator. It says a lot that they are going after a Latino senator in California as they are going into these ICE raids, because the way that fascist messaging works is, again, that repetition, but it's also going after marginalized people. Sorry, I'm going to pause 1 second because I am definitely sending the wrong link to people, and I want to make sure people can join the studio. let's see. Here we go. All right, so I have found the link. So let me see how I can get this to folks. I'm just gonna hop on and try to. I appreciate y'all's patience as we try to figure this out. I do want to make sure that, if you want to join in studio and you have questions about narrative, that you are getting them answered. Alrighty. So I believe, hopefully, fingers crossed, that the link that I just sent in the YouTube chat should allow folks to join in studio. So I will just give it a moment and make sure that that's working. All right, I believe that link should be working. So folks should, if you want to join, the link that I just shared in the YouTube chat live should work. And so you should be able to join as an audience member and get the live chat going. So hopefully that worked. Fingers crossed. All right, so back to WWE SmackDown as policy. I laugh, but it is very serious, because they are really trying to use entertainment as a way to distract. The language that they use, they're using very flowery and descriptive language, violent language, but it's very descriptive and it's painting a picture, it's painting a story. And it's, they're the heroes, the leftists, radical leftists are the evil people, right? And so that's something that we need to be aware of, because we can then shift the narrative away from that kind of inflammatory language, and call out why they are doing it. Why are they being so inflammatory right now? Why do they have to say that all of the protesters are thugs and, using this language? It's because they know that the truth is that they are the thugs, right? A lot of this is really projection, if we're really going to talk about it. And so when we know that, then we can say, hey, they're using this language to try to distract from their own violence and snatching people off the streets. They are making California less safe by snatching our neighbors off of the streets during graduation, during just regular life. And so that is how we shift, and we say we reject their narrative, and then we call out why they are doing it, and then we paint the picture of what we are actually trying to do and trying to accomplish. The link is still not working, so I really apologize. I am really trying to figure out this Riverside stuff, and for some reason it works really well in some capacities and then not as well in others. So this was like more of an emergency pod, and so normally I will have better links and all of that ahead of time. So apologies for this one, but hopefully you guys can join me in studio next time. The other piece that I want to call out is like, Stephen Miller, and the people behind the scenes, because you have Kristi Noem, who is leading, she is the Malibu Barbie of fascism right now, and she's loving it. She's really got her fascism trends going. And so that is the face, right? Trump loves TV. He is an entertainer. This is a circus. Let's create this entertaining circus so that I can go steal all of the US Americans' data and all of our financial information and try to pass tax cuts for the rich. Like, this is all a distraction game. And so you have the faces like Kristi Noem, and then you have the people who are behind the scenes, and that's Stephen Miller. And you can see how he is thinking through Trump's speeches, because a lot of them are written by Stephen Miller. And when you see certain types of language, you know that they are probably written by him. And he's also, tweeting or whatever, wherever he is posting online, and he is inflaming the California and passing the bill. He's talking all about this, right? So we can really understand where they are thinking and why and how they are distracting, um, so that we then shift the narrative, right? Um, and a lot of this is being driven by bots, disinformation, big tech. There is an entire machine behind this that is allowing and inflaming this. And so we need to be very, very, very aware of that. And we need to call that out to our friends and our family. Because whether you are within an activist space, you're in nonprofits, you're more in the tech communications space, like, it's our job, when we understand more of this, to share that out with more people, because there's so much disinformation going on. And the best way for us to combat disinformation is one-to-one communication. It is that deep canvassing. It is relational organizing. It's talking with your friends and making sure that they understand that these things are lies or distractions. So, I'm seeing a lot of trolls coming in and flooding the zone with different types of messaging. And so you can see how they flood them in, and then that grows. The MAGA people that are actual real people in the United States, they pick that up, and then it grows from there. The left then takes that, and a lot of people are feeling really overwhelmed right now. And social media is designed to get us to be really reactive and fearful, frankly. And so a lot of that then stirs it up, right? You've got the Russian trolls that are coming in, and the way that they use language, it's designed to get us to be activated. And so then we are activating the left and feeling really disorganized. When you are activated, it's a lot harder to be strategic. It's a lot harder to think about the long term. And so that is how they're trying to, manipulate us. And so when we know that, we have to step back, right? When it comes to social media, I've got a social media resiliency and care pocket zine on the Roots of Change website. Definitely check that out. You can print it out, and it's really helpful. I wish I had one right here. I usually do, but it's super cute, and it helps because a lot of it is designed for, our mental health and how we can stay safe on social media, because it is activating. And so when we see a post that is activating, take a beat. Don't respond right away. Take a breath, and then decide, how do you want to respond in your agency? Because that's how we can be more strategic in our narrative and our storytelling, is that we're all a little bit more grounded. We're a little bit more secure in the way that we're communicating online, because we're not picking up these social media algorithms traps of getting us to feel overwhelmed and need to respond and need to engage with this hateful content. Um, what we really need to do, again, is it's not about that one hateful person. It's about our community. It's about everyone else. How are we supporting each other and understanding what is real and what's not real? The other pieces that I wanted to share too are around just like the more nefarious side of big tech, because there is a lot of very concerning things happening around big tech and their relationship with ICE, their relationship with Trump and MAGA. I can go very deep into this and I won't. I'm sure Joe Cardillo and I will eventually get into this because I know he is someone that would really love to talk about this. But just to be aware that they are watching us, they are tracking us. If you're on Blue Sky, if you're on Mastodon, no matter where you are, they're probably looking at our messaging. They are collecting our data. They are using that data against us at protests. They are using it against migrants. One of the things that scares me the most is like they're tracking like pizza delivery. So if you are a migrant or you know a migrant in your life, like don't order online. Don't give away your home address. Like be really, really careful with your digital data right now, because they are using it to manipulate us. And I know that sounds really scary, and it is. There are ways for us to move out of this mess. And I think that's another piece for us to remember is really rooting in, like, they are being really, really loud right now because they know that they are losing. There's a lot of court cases that are happening within big tech. Meta just revealed some very, like, I will share it in the show notes, but they created a backdoor on Android so that they could track people even when you say do not track. So that's a huge issue, and the EU and other places are not going to let that stand. They also have another court case in the US right now that's not going well for them. Google is on the verge of potentially breaking up. So there are things that are happening on the big tech side, and there are massive protests. And that's what I want to get to and close with. There's so much energy happening right now. And so, we have to recognize the two things that are happening. One is it's very scary and it's very overwhelming, and the Trump people are exerting their power. The other thing is we are powerful. We are the people. We are so much more powerful than they are. And they know that. And that's why they are pulling out all of the stops to distract us. This is the same playbook that they used in 2020. And so it's really important that we on the left, no matter who you are, Democrat, independent, liberal, leftist, Marxist, whatever you want to call yourself, if you are someone that does not want a country controlled by MAGA, we need to be aware of how we are speaking and how we are feeding into the narrative. So I want to talk about peaceful protests. This weekend, there are going to be a ton of protests happening throughout the country. Please be aware of how you are using your language. These are protests. We are using our constitutional right to speak up. There might be violence, but we also need to be aware that some of that violence is being perpetrated by the right. This happened in 2020. They go in to leftists' protests and other organizations, and they disrupt and they create violence. A peaceful protest can turn violent in an instant when an ICE agent or a National Guardsman starts shooting rubber bullets at people. Like, it is not the protesters' right. Like you cannot control for peace in a repressive and violent system. So let's be very clear about the language that we are using. we are exerting our constitutional duty to speak out, use our First Amendment right, avoid using the language of peaceful protest, avoid saying there are some bad actors, but just avoid that. Like, really talk about the massive protests. There are only a few people that are, few places that are turning violent or disrupting property. There are way more of us who want to peacefully protest. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the mass amount of people that are showing up and saying that they want democracy, they want freedom, they want liberation, and they don't want to live in a repressive society. And that is something that we can all get around, right? So that's the narrative that I want us to really think about, and to really kind of notice how MAGA is speaking, and then try to adjust your language away from that, adjust your language towards a more liberatory framework. Go back to our histories on podcasts, like go back to all of our past podcasts. There's a lot of different, advice around messaging. Some of my conversations with Get Free are really great. I just had a great conversation with Janelle Johnson about disability justice and how we speak to that. And so I think that's really important too. And then the last thing that I want to close with is safety tips. So I know a lot of folks are going to be getting out there this weekend. We're also, continuing. The ICE raids will continue, and we can expect that they will escalate. And so we need to be prepared for how we can protect ourselves as we are putting our bodies on the line for our neighbors, for the migrants and people who help support our communities. I did so much work in the Central Valley for the election, and those are our farm workers. Those are the people that get our food on the table. We should be celebrating migrants and not vilifying them. So please, let's celebrate our difference and really lead with that liberatory framework. So when it comes to protests, one thing from a cybersecurity perspective is be so careful about the devices that you are bringing. I would recommend not bringing your phone at all. I would just leave your devices at home unless you absolutely need them. You probably don't need them. If you do, turn it off, keep it off. It's just a brick in your phone, in your bag. If you have to keep it on, I would say airplane mode is not as secure as everyone thinks. There is still potential that things are going to get pinged out from your phone, even with airplane mode on. So one of the other pieces of advice I recommend is taking all of the big tech apps off of your phone if you're going to go protest. Get Meta off. That's Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook. You know, look into Amazon and Google. Like you that might be a little bit harder to take those off of your phone, but those are talking to each other, and they might be pinging out when you're at protests. And that is data that Meta is using, and they are using it with Palantir, which is then selling it to ICE. So just be very aware of where your devices are. Do you have location turned on? Just try to be as secure as possible. I'll share some resources in the show notes as well. And then the last thing that I just wanted to share as a piece of advice is aftercare. So after the protest, I definitely recommend doing some like care for your body, because these are very activating moments. It is really exciting, and hopefully you are going to be going to a peaceful protest and you're going to be chanting and it's going to feel really good. But your body's still going to feel really activated. And so there's a lot of work that you can do afterwards to settle your body and really help it kind of return to normal. And that's going to be really important as we move through these moments, because again, these are really activating moments. And if we can stay grounded, we can move so much more strategically. So one advice that I recommend is, if you are a pet owner, you will know, if your dog ever gets really activated, like my dog, he thinks he's the king of the castle. And so he'll bark at all the other dogs from above as they're walking. And, they're very activated. And then as soon as I get him away from the window, what does he do? He shakes, right? He shakes it all out. Cats too. They jump and they land and unexpectedly, and they didn't mean to do that. They shake, right? Like, we are animals, and our bodies really need to kind of let go of that energy. So find that animal shake for you. It could be dancing. It could be, I don't know. That's my best advice, is dancing. But you can just like shake your body out. You can do some jumping jacks, just kind of pay attention to your body, give it some love afterwards, take a nice shower, all of that. So thank you guys for joining me on the YouTube Live. That's all I have today. There is so much more I have to share. What I didn't get into at the top was my background, which is in digital advertising and media. I majored in radio, television, and film, as well as advertising. And I was in the first digital advertising class at the University of Texas, which is hilarious. And so I've really been at the forefront of the big tech changes and how they've used our data and manipulated us online through social media and through all of these things, and how we can really shift and create change, and how we can move away from those systems. So I really, if you're just finding me for the first time, I hope you keep listening and watching and taking a look at our resources, because we are here to help support folks through this moment. We need to lead with heart first activism and social change communication, because storytelling is how we're going to get through this. They have their stories. MAGA has their story, and I don't like their story. I don't want to live in that story. I want to live in a more liberatory and beautiful world. So let's start telling that story, and let's do that together, because we can create change. And remember, they're very scared. They would not be doing all of this if they weren't scared of the people and the power that we have. So sending everyone good luck and just grounded energy. And I hope everyone stays rooted.